April 29, 1945. The US 45th Infantry Division approached Dachau, one of the first concentration camps established by the Nazis in 1933. The camp had originally been designed for political prisoners, but over 12 years it grew into a network of over 30,000 men, women and children forced to live in overcrowded, inhumane conditions. The camp sprawled across dozens of acres, barbed wire fences cutting sharp lines through the frozen landscape, guard towers looming over every corner. Smoke from the crematoriums drifted through the grey winter sky. The Americans had expected resistance. They were prepared for combat. They were not prepared for the horrors of human suffering contained within these walls. Inside, prisoners lived in overcrowded barracks. Wooden bunks held 10, 12, 15 men stacked one above the other. Disease ran rampant. Typhus, dysentery, tuberculosis. Food rations were nearly non-existent. Many had been reduced to 50 pounds or less. Eyewitness accounts describe prisoners scavenging for scraps of food, drinking from latrines, or even attempting to eat the dead in the final weeks before liberation. The living had been forced into unimaginable acts of survival. On that same day, a train arrived outside the camp. 39 cattle cars, each packed with prisoners evacuated from camps further east, many already dead on arrival. The Americans approached. The smell hit them before the sight. Inside were thousands of corpses, men, women, children, starved, beaten, emaciated. Some bore bite marks from the living. Some were already frozen in the snow, bodies pressed together for warmth that did not come. Private John Lee later recalled, "We were mad in a way I'd never felt. I wanted to kill every German I could see. That train, I'll never forget it." Soldiers who had survived Italy, Normandy, and the battles across France, veterans hardened by war, found themselves unable to contain their horror. Grief, shock, and rage collided, forming a reaction that would shape what came next. As American soldiers breached the main gates, prisoners emerged from the barracks, skeletal and disoriented. Some could barely walk, others ran, tears streaming down their faces, calling out for the Americans. The camp commandant, Martin Weiss, had fled hours before. Left behind were Heinrich Wicker, a young officer, and roughly 500 SS guards. Wicker, attempting to maintain some semblance of authority, stepped forward in polished boots, clean uniform, and white gloves, expecting formal surrender protocols. Instead, he was spat upon. The prisoners' cries of "Americans, Americans" filled the air, but the soldiers' attention was elsewhere. They were methodically clearing the camp, moving toward remaining SS personnel. In the snow-covered coal yard, a small group of SS guards attempted to surrender. They raised their hands and shouted, "Hitler is finished, we surrender!" Their uniforms were intact, faces pale, eyes wary. Lieutenant Jack Bushyhead observed silently. A simple hand gesture directed the soldiers. The SS guards were lined against a brick wall. A machine gun was placed on a tripod. Its clicks echoed through the cold air. When the gunfire began, it lasted only seconds, but it left the yard blackened with coal dust and red with blood. Some guards fell instantly. Others were stunned, some still twitching. Colonel Felix Sparks arrived and fired a pistol into the air, attempting to restore order. The soldiers had just witnessed the crematorium and the train. Their reactions were informed by the horrors they had seen. The coal yard became, for a brief time, a place where military discipline collided with human response to extreme atrocity. At Tower B, SS guards attempted to surrender by descending ladders with hands raised. The Americans did not hesitate. Magazines were emptied into the moat. Some bodies fell into the water, others landed in the snow below. Nearby, prisoners identified hidden guards. They had no firearms, only sticks, shovels, and their bare hands. American soldiers observed but did not intervene. In that moment, the prisoners became the judges, juries, and executioners. Dachau briefly became lawless. Victims of the SS inflicted justice on their tormentors. Elsewhere, prisoners located German capos, prisoners who had assisted the Nazis in enforcing brutality. These men were beaten, drowned, or dragged through the snow. Soldiers stood aside. In one account, an officer asked whether they should intervene. A sergeant replied, "No, let them finish." For 1 hour, the victims carried out justice that the law could not. Dachau, in that moment, had become a place where power shifted entirely. Eventually, Lieutenant Colonel Felix Sparks regained control. The surviving SS guards were locked away. Soldiers patrolled the camp, documenting the damage. The dead were counted. Bodies from the train were moved for burial. Photographs captured the scene. Soldiers standing over executed guards, prisoners in ragged clothing, and the remnants of crematoriums. Reports were submitted up the chain of command. Court-martials were recommended. General George Patton reviewed the evidence. He saw the photographs of the train, the crematorium, and the executed SS guards. He concluded that the soldiers had been subjected to extraordinary circumstances. The report was destroyed. There would be no trial. Lieutenant Jack Bushyhead returned home quietly. Dachau survived as a symbol. 30,000 prisoners were liberated. 50 SS guards died and were buried in unmarked graves. The soldiers could not forget the train, the coal yard, the towers, or the prisoners' suffering. They carried that memory for life. Dachau now stands as a memorial to the victims of Nazi cruelty. The soldiers' vengeance, while controversial, reflected the human reaction to the unimaginable horrors they confronted. History judges the SS differently than it judges the soldiers. The liberators faced the worst of humanity and responded with the tools at their disposal: discipline, military training, and human outrage. Today, the camp is silent. The barbed wire remains, the watchtowers restored. 30,000 lives survived. 50 guards were executed. The memories of the soldiers, of the victims, of the horrors remain. Dachau is a lesson in history, a testimony to suffering, and a reminder of what humans are capable of, both in cruelty and in reaction. The story of Dachau is a reminder of the extremes of human cruelty and the courage of those who confronted it. To uncover more untold chapters of history, subscribe and join us on the journey through the past.